Hey guys, this is Dorian Day for ADSR Sound. If you want to subscribe to the YouTube channel, you can do so at youtube.com/ADSR-TUTS. I also want to let you know that all the resources we're using here today can be found in a file in the description, including the Ableton file and the necessary wavetables. So today we're going to go over how to make a lush and spacious progressive house chord pad combo patch. What I mean by combo patch is that the preset can easily be transformed from a full sustained pad to a pluck using the macros. Before we start, I want to give you a little information on the sound. Where the sound originated is a bit murky. The earliest and easiest instance to find is in Faxing Berlin by deadmau5. I checked the records of many of his contemporaries at the time and couldn't find any instances predating the release of Faxing Berlin. For this reason, this sound is most commonly referred to in current day as the deadmau5 pluck or progressive house pluck, although the former is slightly more specific, as this sound really seems to be deadmau5's spin on progressive house plucks, as both progressive house and progressive plucks predate deadmau5's introduction to the scene. The most predominant difference between deadmau5's plucks and traditional plucks is the introduction of an oscillator tuned to a perfect fifth, which creates a very rich consonant timbre. The second characteristic of deadmau5's plucks that made them unique and ear-catching was his heavy use of automation on the filters and envelopes that would change the sound from a short pluck to grand chords. Okay, with that info out of the way, let's get to making this sound in Serum. Well, like usual, I like to do clever things with the wavetables so we achieve a rich timbre with the most flexibility possible using the least amount of resources possible. So for this sound, I used one of the factory wavetables, which actually has a perfect fifth built into it as the bass timbre, and one of my custom high-pass tables to add a crisp, ultra-high resolution into the sound. Let's set the factory wavetable on OSC-A. Click the wavetable display, go to digital, and select Debussy. Now Debussy is a very interesting wavetable because its harmonic makeup is basically two perfect fifths stacked octaves apart with the high end of a saw wave. We can see her on the spec analyzer. We have the fundamental C, the first harmonic C, and then we have a G, which is a perfect fifth above C. Then we have another C, followed by another G, and then at this point the high end begins to look like a saw wave. This waveform is basically perfect for making deadmau5 plucks because it frees you from using an additional oscillator for creating the perfect fifth sound. Next, drag in the high-pass wavetable in the folder you downloaded at the start of the video. Now what you'll notice about this wavetable is that if you turn the wavetable position knob, it starts as a square wave and slowly filters itself out. This allows you to add the appropriate amount of high harmonics to your sound without sacrificing a filter. Okay, now let's start completing the rest of the sound. First, set the number of voices on each OSC to 5. Turn detune, blend, and rend all the way to the left on both OSCs. Set the wavetable position knob on both OSCs to the far left. Next, turn on the filter. Keep it on MG low 12. Set the cutoff all the way down, increase the drive till it points directly left, keep the resonance at default, and finally make sure both OSCs are routed to the filter. Next, let's set the volume envelope. Keep attack at default, set release to 783 milliseconds, sustain to -10 dBs, and decay to 1.19 seconds. Next, let's set the LFOs. Set LFO 1 to wavetable position of OSC B max depth and level of OSC B setting the depth till it hits the end. Set the ends of the LFO from a triangle to a DC offset. You can return the shape to a triangle if you want more movement in your final sound. In a moment, we're going to set a macro to scale this effect. Next, turn LFO 2 into an envelope by setting the curve as follows. Then click the envelope toggle and set the rate to 1/2 bar. Set LFO 2 to level on OSC A and B till the depth hits the end, and then add LFO 2 to the cutoff of the filter to about 2/3 depth. From here, we can start setting the macros. Go into the mod matrix and set macro 1 as an auxiliary source for LFO 1, affecting OSC B wavetable position. Since LFO 1 is essentially a DC offset, this directly controls the wavetable position knob, filtering out the low end. Call macro 1 a mount. Next, set macro 2 to detune and blend of both oscillators, depth set to half, and then set macro 2 to the ran knob of both oscillators, depth set to 100%. Next, go into the FX section and add a dimension expander. Set mix of the hyper section to 0 and add macro 2 to the dry wet knob with 1/3 depth. Finish off this effect by setting the size of the dimension section to 10% and setting the dry wet to 50%. Call macro 2 blur. Next, set macro 3 to the cutoff of the filter 100% depth and the drive 10% depth. Call this macro cutoff. Finally, set macro 4 to the level of both oscillators with negative depth of 20%. Next, go into the mod matrix and set macro 4 as an auxiliary source of LFO2 on filter cutoff. This macro lowers the volume while increasing the impact of LFO2 on the cutoff of the filter, turning the sound into a pluck. This is only effective if the cutoff macro is lowered from the max depth. Call this macro pluck. From here, drag in your MIDI file. I'm using deadmau5's I Remember chords, which you can find online easily. Then set automation on all of your parameters. And finally, hear the result. Okay, that finishes us off. If you have any questions or comments, let me know and I'll answer them. Once again, I'm Dorian Day for ADSR Sounds. If you liked this tutorial, make sure to subscribe to youtube.com/ADSR TUTS. Until next time.